All right, guys, we got a video by Doron's World Why Classroom of the Elite Punishes Intelligence. It's a long one, but you guys know I've been keeping up with Classroom of the Elite, and honestly, the title kind of intrigued me a little bit. I want to see what he's talking about.
In most anime, intelligence is a superpower, but in Classroom of the Elite, intelligence is treated like a disease. Here, intellect isn't rewarded, it's weaponized.
I feel like it's only treated as a disease more so for Ayano because, he has no emotions or, he just seems depressed. Like it doesn't seem like his intelligence is actually making his life better. But when we look at somebody like Koenji, while he might be narcissistic, Koenji has very high, confidence or ego or narcissism, whatever you want to call it. Like Koenji seems like he's very happy with his life. And Koenji seems like he's enjoying his life way more than Ayano.
And the students who rise to the top aren't the happiest or the most fulfilled. They're the most isolated, emotionally detached, and psychologically broken. Because in this world...
Oh yeah, I think they said that literally in episode 1 or something. I think the teacher, the homeroom teacher, I don't remember her name, Chabashira. Like, I think she said that, the most broken students are, the strongest or something like that.
The only way to truly succeed is to stop thinking like a normal human. And the students who survive this system the best are the ones willing to sacrifice their humanity to win. But why? Why does Classroom of the Elite punish intelligence in a world obsessed with creating elites? And what does the series understand about genius? The most anime completely ignore. Now, in most schools, intelligence leads to opportunity. Better grades, better recognition, better futures.
Yeah, it's hard school is literally about intelligence. It's hard for intelligence not to be an advantage, low-key.
But in here, intelligence leads to something much darker and benefits those few who can profit. The first thing that makes the Advanced Nurturing High School so terrifying is that it doesn't function like a normal school at all. On the surface, it looks perfect. Elite facilities, freedom, prestige. A system supposedly designed to create the next generation of Japan's greatest minds. But underneath that image is something far more devious. Because this school doesn't reward kindness, it doesn't reward honesty, and it definitely doesn't reward emotional connection.
Yeah.
It rewards results. And the moment results become the only thing that matters, people stop seeing each other as classmates, and they start seeing each other as tools. That's why almost every major exam in Classroom of the Elite is designed around psychological warfare. Not intelligence alone, but manipulation. The school
Yeah, I 100% agree. Even though Class A's leader, Sakayanagi, is more of an intelligent girl rather than, she's more like a high IQ type of person rather than necessarily being this extreme manipulator like Ayano or Ryuen. And even though she's in Class A, it's not just about pure intelligence that Sakayanagi has. You also want manipulation like Ryuen has and kind of Ayano has. I feel like Ayano is a good combination of Ryuen's manipulation and kind of Sakayanagi's high IQ.
Constantly create situations where students are forced to betray.
But yeah, in general, there just is a difference between someone with a high IQ and a manipulator.
Deceive, isolate, or exploit each other just to survive. And the elite students...
And again, manipulation sometimes isn't even about pure IQ. It's more about EQ, emotional manipulation at times.
...are those who adapt to the system faster than everyone else. Take someone like Ryuen, who undeniably thrives in this environment. Ryuen understands some...
Yeah, and Ryuen isn't even I'm sure he's smart since he's obviously able to manipulate people. But Ryuen specifically, he's not some high IQ chess master genius like Sakayanagi kind of is.
Something that most students don't almost immediately. Fear is far more efficient than trust. While other class leaders try to unite people through cooperation, Ryuen builds control through intimidation, ruling his class with an iron fist. He blackmails students, manipulates information, and breaks people down psychologically. Because in this school, controlling people is often more valuable than understanding them. And the terrifying part is that it works. Ryuen succeeds because the system allows people like him to be successful. But then you have someone like Ichinose.
Bro, low-key, I just gotta mention the fact that Ryuen was a little bit scared to fight against Hosen that one time, that one time there was like conflict in the hallway. Maybe like it was season 4, episode 3 or something. I don't remember, but bro, the fact that it's kind of a Hosen upskill, bro. Like Hosen might actually be a stronger physical fighter than Ryuen at this point.
At first, she feels completely different. Kind, empathetic, honest. She tries to lead through trust instead of fear. And for a while, it almost feels like the series is suggesting that compassion can survive in—
Yeah, with Ichinose, it was kind of like, yeah, maybe it can survive because Ichinose is in Class B, but I kind of read the light novels a few years ago, and yeah, it's just not going to work out. Minor spoiler alert, but Ichinose is probably going to turn a little bit to the dark side,
inside of this environment. But slowly, the school begins to destroy that idealism, because Classroom of the Elite punishes emotional vulnerability. The more Ichinose—
And Nagumo's mass manipulation is actually insane, bro. He got the whole school to hate Ayano Koji or something. Like, Nagumo's just, he's insane, honestly.
cares about people, the easier she becomes to predict, as her class genuinely suffers from her leadership, and her
I'm still confused why Nagumo wants Ichinose, like, as his girlfriend or whatever. I'm assuming it's because Ichinose has high social status, or that a lot of people trust her. I don't think Nagumo is actually genuinely interested in her.
Kindness becomes a weakness that others exploit. It's only until Ichinose awakens to her more sinister elements that she's able to move forward. And that's one of the darkest lessons that the series attempts to teach. This school doesn't reward manipulation.
Dang, Ayano Koji. Is this back in some season where Ayano Koji was saying if Ichinose ever went on the dark path or the dark side, that he would be the one to eliminate her?
Lessons that the series
to finish her off. Bro, that's so cold. I thought Ayano Koji actually liked Ichinose. What the heck? Ayano Koji? But hey, I'm not even really surprised. He sees everybody as tools, man.
attempts to teach. This school doesn't reward manipulation. It normalizes it. When success becomes everything, morality becomes negotiable. And the higher students climb, the more of themselves they're forced to sacrifice to get there. Until eventually, winning becomes the only thing that they have left. What makes Classroom of the Elite so disturbing isn't just that manipulation exists, it's that the system slowly transforms people who once resisted it. Characters who begin the story valuing trust eventually learn that trust makes them vulnerable. Compassion becomes exploitable. Honesty becomes—
Bro, I'm sorry. This is giving me flashbacks to Higuruma's backstory from Jujutsu Kaisen, bro. Just kind of going down that, dark evil route, or understanding that, the world isn't perfect,
dangerous. And over time, even good people start adapting to survive. And no student represents the true cost of this system more than Ayano Koji. Because Ayano Koji succeeds precisely because he's emotionally detached enough to survive it. He understands people almost too well, their insecurities, their desires. But instead of forming connections, he weaponizes that understanding. People become variables to calculate, obstacles to move, tools to use. And that's what makes Ayano Koji so tragic. The school rewards him because he already thinks like the system itself. He isn't beating the system, he's the product of it. But manipulation isn't the most dangerous thing that the system creates. The real danger is what happens after students begin adapting.
I guess nobody caught Ryuen, but Ryuen doing this literally, it kind of made me hate his character, bro. I still don't get it. Yeah, it's technically manipulation, but this is just extreme bullying, bro. Pouring cold water onto a high school girl, come on, man. And yeah, technically he's in high school too, but it's just I don't know, bro. This was just crazy. This was extreme bullying, bro. I don't know how else to phrase it.
to it, because the longer someone survives inside of Classroom of the Elite, the harder it becomes for them to form genuine relationships at all. And that's the natural consequence.
Like, what he did was, like, essentially kind of illegal, bro. Like, literally just trapping Kay in some building, having Albert stand guard, all of that. Like, yeah, that was kind of the moment I realized Classroom of the Elite doesn't play around.
Of a system built entirely around competition, when students are constantly forced to calculate outcomes, predict behavior, and protect themselves from exploitation. Relationships stop feeling authentic. Every interaction starts carrying suspicion behind it. Every friendship becomes uncertain. Every act of kindness feels like it could have a hidden motive. And for the smartest students in the school, this becomes even worse, because intelligence in Classroom of the Elite doesn't just help students understand people better, it teaches them how to use people better. And Ainakoji is literally the blueprint of this idea. By this point in the story, Ainakoji already understands something most students still refuse to accept. Emotion clouds judgment.
What's weird though is, I don't know if this is just an issue with the anime, but in like episode 1 or just at the beginning of the Classroom of the Elite anime, it seemed like Ainakoji kind of cared about social status a little bit, because like I think he thought that he was like a loser. He was like, oh, my first speech to the class was so awkward. He was stuttering. He was like, Ano, like, I think it was literally just episode 1, bro. And then Harikta literally laughed at him. It was hilarious, man.
Attachment creates vulnerability, and trust can be weaponized against you. So instead of emotionally relying on people, Ainakoji studies them. He analyzes behavior, predicts reactions, identifies weaknesses, and because he understands human psychology so well, he's able to control situations from the shadows without most people even realizing what he's doing. But what makes this mentality so disturbing is that the school continuously rewards it, especially during the unanimous voting exam. The structure of this exam is psychologically brutal.
Bro, I felt so bad for Yamauchi right here, because I'm pretty sure this dude got expelled and he tried to throw a chair at Ryuen. Bro, not Ryuen, at Koenji, bro. Koenji literally could have just killed him, bro. Like, straight up, man. Like, he literally could have just beat him up. I'll be honest, bro. He tried picking a fight with Koenji. He's an idiot.
Unanimous voting exam. The structure of this exam is psychologically brutal, where the class is intended to reach a consensus on a bunch of critical decisions, and if they fail to unite, everyone suffers consequences, which immediately turns the classroom into a pressure cooker. Fear spreads, paranoia spreads, and students begin questioning each other's motives. And slowly, the idea of friendship starts to collapse under the pressure of total survival, because eventually the class reaches the most dangerous question possible: who is expendable? And the moment that question enters the room, relationships stop being emotional. They become strategic. Some students hesitate because they still see each other as classmates, as people, as friends. But others begin thinking in terms of efficiency, value, sacrifice, what benefits the class the most. And Ainakoji adapts to this mindset faster than almost anyone else. While other students struggle emotionally with the consequences of sacrificing someone, Ainakoji approaches the situation analytically, coldly, not because he enjoys cruelty, but because the system has conditioned students like him to prioritize outcomes over emotional attachment. And this is why, when Ainakoji makes an unthinkable decision, when benefit outweighs the cost, where the only way towards winning is sacrifice, he'll discard even someone like Sakura for the sake of class victory, thereby destroying his friend.
Oh, yeah. Oh. How did I forget about this? That's kind of crazy. Wait. Oh yeah, Ainakoji was kind of the reason Sakura got expelled, wasn't he? I don't remember this arc though. This must have been season 2, season 3. It's been a while, man.
Group, exposing his true nature to his class.
Oh shoot. I still remember the light novel. This shouldn't be a spoiler though, since, you know, he literally just used an anime scene of Sakura getting upset after being expelled. But yeah, the girl with the blue hair who's part of the study group, she got mad at Ainakoji, I'm pretty sure. after he literally knowingly got Sakura expelled because they were all in a study group. I don't remember her name. It's just the girl with the blue hair who kind of, leads the study group that Ayano Koji was friends with. And then there's also that guy with the glasses and, the one Sakura was in as well.
And further ostracizing himself like the black sheep he is. He makes the clear, intelligent decision for the class, and he's punished for it. And this is partially what...
Honestly, it's kind of hard to remember names in Classroom of the Elite anyways. Of course, if you're not like a main character, makes
Classroom of the Elite such a mind...
There's just a lot of kind of NPC characters in this show.
Fuck. The school creates environments where emotional detachment becomes advantageous. The less attached students become to other people, the easier it is to make the most ruthless decisions, which means that intelligence inside the system slowly starts transforming relationships themselves. Friendships become transactional, trust becomes conditional, and people begin evaluating each other based on usefulness rather than connection. And it will always be the smartest students who adapt to the shift.
Wait, hold on. Is this the girl that dated Ayano Koji in the past? Like, she dated him for, 1 day or something? She just looks familiar to me, but I also know that she isn't, a main character. Isn't this Kei Kaorizawa's friend who literally dated Ayano Koji? I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure she is.
Rather than connection. And it will always be the smartest students who adapt to the shift the quickest. Because once intelligence becomes tied to survival, human relationships stop feeling genuine, and they start feeling like another system to manage. And eventually this system creates a final consequence, because once intelligence becomes tied to manipulation, and relationships become tied to survival, the smartest students...
Bro, the reveal was so crazy when I learned...
Tied to manipulation, and
Bro, learning that Hirata was literally only dating Kei as a favor just so she didn't get bullied? Come on, bro. I love this anime, bro. I love this anime. I love this series. That's so wild, bro. I actually thought they might have liked each other, because Hirata, most popular guy in the class, Kei, most popular girl in the class. But nope. That's wild.
Relationships become tied to...
Low-key, Hirata is on demon timing for even agreeing to do that. And I know it's ironic because, yes, what he's doing is technically good. He's literally, trying to help protect Kei, but I'm still going to say he was on demon timing for that. Because, come on, man. That's so crazy to do.
Survival. The smartest students stop feeling connected to everyone else entirely. That's the pattern behind every elite student. The smarter they become, the more isolated they become. Not just socially, psychologically. Because after spending enough time inside a system where trust is dangerous, and
I feel like I mostly agree with that, but I feel like, hold on.
Because after spending...
I feel like Koenji kind of discounts this a little bit. Koenji's still pursuing women. He says, however, I'm afraid I have a date I simply can't miss. And this is when I think Ryuen was trying to fight him in season 2 or season 1.
Enough time inside a
yeah, but this is when Ryuen breaks Koenji's mirror or whatever. But Koenji, maybe he's just pursuing women just because he's selfish or he's a player. Maybe he's doing it for his own goals. So you could still argue he's, psychologically isolated. But on the outside, it does seem like Koenji, while he doesn't really have any friends, it does seem like women like him at least, or he's pursuing women. So it does this weird thing where it still makes, it looks like Koenji's kind of sociable on the outside.
System where trust is dangerous and vulnerability can be exploited. Genuine connections start feeling...
But on a serious note, Koenji probably doesn't care about anybody besides himself. He probably doesn't care about the women he dates or whatever. I don't know.
Impossible. Students stop expressing what they truly feel. They hide intentions, suppress emotion, and calculate every interaction before it happens. And over time, that constant emotional restraint begins separating them from everyone around them. You can see this clearly in Horikita. At the beginning of the series, Horikita believes intelligence alone should naturally earn respect. She distances herself from others, avoids emotional connection, and sees dependence as weakness.
Yep, but then she gets W character development because Ayana Koji he's kind of trying to build her up, to build up Harikta. I think he's just curious how she'll blossom or how much stronger she'll get, I guess, in a weird way. I think that's what Ayana Koji has said in the past, but I'm not sure. Honestly, weird question though, but low-key, I'm wondering who's actually the main character of Classroom of the Elite, because it might actually be like Harikta. I still think it's, Ayana Koji clearly, but like it might kind of be Harikta. Or maybe Harikta counts as like a deuteragonist. Who knows?
So despite being academically gifted, she spends most of her early time in isolation. Not because people rejected her, but because she rejected them first. What makes Horikita an interesting case is that the series slowly forces her to confront something painful. Intelligence alone cannot replace human connection. Again and again, Horikita fails when she tries to control everything through logic alone. Because leadership requires understanding.
Bro, I wonder if Ryuin actually genuinely likes Harikta, or if he's just also kind of... I mean, I'm sure Ryuin is actually a playboy, but I wonder if he does genuinely like Harikta to any degree, because I still remember that one beach episode where Ryuin was like, oh, you can come in my tent if you'd like, and all that. He was flirting with Harikta. Being a little bit pervy, but yeah, I wonder.
People on an emotional level.
I think Ryuin might like Ibuki though, or Ibuki likes him. I know some of the class of elite ships. I know there's Ibuki and Ryuin. I know there's Harikta and Ryuin. I think there's Ayana Koji and, well, obviously Ayana Koji and Kei. There's also Ayana Koji and Ichinose, etc., etc.
Not just strategically, and her isolation eventually becomes her greatest weakness. But while Horikita slowly tries to change, other students sink even deeper in emotional isolation, especially Sakiyanagi.
Oh, Sakiyanagi? Interesting. I mean, she always seems composed.
Class 1A's leader. Sakiyanagi represents what happens when superiority completely replaces connection.
I do agree. He might be going the route where like Sakiyanagi is alone, but she's not lonely. It's kind of it reminds me of like Sukuna from JJK. If you've read the manga, spoiler alert, there were like themes going on of like loneliness and isolation among the strongest. So it just kind of reminds me of that. But I think in the case of Sakiyanagi, she is like alone, but she doesn't feel lonely, if that makes sense. It's the same way Ayana Koji is alone, but he's not crying his eyes out depressed because he has no real friends. Like, he's not lonely. He doesn't have that negative feeling of feeling alone, even though he objectively is alone.
She doesn't just see herself as smarter than other students. She views...
It's kind of like how literally you could argue Ayana Koji and Koenji, they're both basically alone. Like, they both kind of barely hang out with people, and they're just so much smarter than everybody else. But Koenji seems like he's enjoying his life to the fullest. Meanwhile, Ayana Koji, he doesn't really seem fulfilled. Koenji just seems happy all the time. I mean, he's always got a smile on his face, unless he's faking it. But I don't think Koenji's faking it because it's pretty obvious he's a narcissist. At least that's my assumption of him. I'm assuming he's a narcissist.
Herself as fundamentally above them. People become entertainment, and because of that mindset, genuine relationships become almost impossible for her. Not because she lacks intelligence, but because her intelligence has evolved into detachment. But while characters like Horikita struggle with...
My issue is, like, we haven't seen Koenji express, like, emotion or sympathy or empathy for any other characters within the series. So I am kind of just thinking he might be a narcissist. I don't know.
Emotional connection, or someone like Sakiyanagi's superiority complex ends up destroying most attachments. At the end of the day, they're just characters. They're cogs in the system. But when you look at the most extreme system itself, something like the White Room, we see something far more terrifying. Because the White Room takes the philosophy behind Classroom of the Elite to its absolute limit. Now, the White Room wasn't intended to raise healthy children. It was created with the intention of mass-producing geniuses. And in this pursuit, children were stripped of their identity and forced through relentless training. There was constant competition, constant evaluations. And inside that environment, emotional attachment...
Yeah, the truth is what Ayano doesn't realize is, like, he's the slave, basically. Like, he is a product of the White Room. And ultimately, the only reason he thinks the way he does is due to his upbringing. Now, can we blame him? Not really. I mean, the way you're brought up is just kind of... You can change how you think throughout your life, but usually your personality remains somewhat stable, somewhat, relative, somewhat the same. So I don't blame Ayano for valuing, for valuing manipulation because, that was literally just what he grew up with, But if he was super smart, he would understand that this was a program that was installed into him, basically.
Became dangerous because caring about other people would just slow you down, especially since one day they would just be sacrificed. This was the culture of the White Room. The fittest survive, the weakest are kicked out. The students inside the White Room weren't encouraged.
Wait, hold on. Is the White Room really necessary? If I don't remember Arisu Sakayagi's backstory, I know her dad is like chairman, but if... Okay, so the thing is, this depends on whether Sakayanagi is nature or nurture. But if Sakayanagi ended up being extremely smart, similar to Ayano, was the White Room truly necessary? Because I know Sakayanagi was never, like, in the White Room. You see that she's kind of looking through the glass, but she was never actually a part of it. And she's also super smart, which just kind of shows that the White Room might not be needed. Now, this argument only hinges on the fact... It only hinges on Sakayanagi being nurtured and not, a product of nature. I don't remember if she was literally just born a genius or not, and that's the issue. If she was born a genius, then yeah, the White Room's better. But if somehow her dad raised her to still enjoy her life while being extremely smart, then yeah, just that would be the better option.
To form friendships. They were conditioned to outperform each other, to survive each other, and over time, the kind of environment destroys the ability to connect normally. Which is why so many White Room students end up emotionally hollow, or the other extreme, they become any White Room student.
All right, real quick, spoiler alert, bro. Spoiler alert, okay? All right, what I'm wondering is, even though Takuya Yagami is a White Room student, does he actually like what's her name? Does he actually like Kushida like whatsoever? Because the way he was kind of risen her up in some of the episodes, like I think in season 4 episode 6 or something, Yagami was talking with Ayano and Kushida, and then at the end of the convo he was getting all nervous and he was like, Kushida senpai, I'd like to kind of speak with you later. And just the way, even in this scene, he kind of holds like her hand, like she puts one hand out, and he's literally like using both hands to just grab her one hand, and it's like, damn, bro. I don't know. I don't remember if he was trying to manipulate her because it's been a while since I've read the light novels, of course. I don't remember everything, but what are your intentions, Yagami? Like, are you trying to manipulate Kushida, or do you genuinely like have a thing for her, man? Yeah, literally this scene, she puts one hand out to, shake Yagami's hand, and he just uses both of his hands, and he just kind of clasps her hand. It's like, damn.
End up emotionally hollow, or the other extreme, they become total monsters. They may possess extraordinary intelligence, but they struggle with empathy, trust, identity, human connection itself. Because when children are raised inside systems where value is determined entirely by performance, they eventually begin seeing themselves and everyone around them as nothing more than functions. And that's what makes the White Room so important to understanding Classroom of the Elite.
Bro, that hits different in like a really psychopathic weird way. I thought he was gonna say tools, but he said functions. It just kind of hits differently because like I don't know, it just kind of makes me think of an algorithm and it really just dehumanizes people. Like calling them tools is obviously dehumanizing, but I guess just using the terminology or the word function just makes it even weirder because it seems like something more related to science or algorithms. It hit different.
They eventually begin seeing themselves and everyone around them as nothing more than functions. And that's what makes the White Room so important to understand.
Yeah, it just feels so dehumanizing. Functions. I don't know.
And in Classroom of the Elite, it reveals the terrifying endpoint of the school's ideology, a world where intelligence is perfected, but humanity is slowly erased in the process. Because the series is constantly asking a disturbing question. If the process of becoming elite implies the sacrifice of empathy, vulnerability, and human connection, then what kind of person are you becoming by the time you finally succeed?
Completely true. But all that really matters is whatever mindset makes you like the most happy, honestly. Like the most important thing in life is generally just like happiness, right? So if this mindset of Ayane Koji's is really what makes him happy, then yeah, sure, I guess keep viewing people as tools and manipulating them, but I don't think it is. I actually kind of respect Koenji because even if Koenji is a narcissist, he seems like he's enjoying his life, bro.
And in Classroom of the Elite, the answer becomes increasingly clear. The students who rise inside of these systems often become the most emotionally isolated people of all. And that's what ultimately makes Ayane Koji the most tragic character in Classroom of the Elite. Not because he suffers the most, but because he may be the only student who truly understands the extent of this system, and has already sacrificed too much of himself to escape it. By this point, Classroom of the Elite has already shown us what—
Oh my god, the look on this dude's face. Poor Yamauchi. This must be right before, you know, he grabs the chair or grabs his desk and tries to attack Koenji, bro. Bro, this is sad. You can really see the despair on his face, man. It's honestly pretty effed up.
its world does to its people. It rewards manipulation, destroys trust, turns relationships into strategy, and isolates the students intelligent enough to survive inside it. But Ayane Koji represents the final result of that ideology. Because unlike other students, Ayane Koji wasn't simply exposed to a broken system. He was literally created by one. The White Room stripped away almost everything that normally allows a person to develop emotionally. Children weren't taught how to live. They were taught how to outperform, how to endure, how to survive. And out of all the students, Ayane Koji was the outlier, the only true success that environment ever produced. And this is the underlying tragedy, because in the entire series, there is no one who can compete on Ayane Koji's level. The series proves that when it comes to intelligence, Ayane Koji is almost untouchable, but every victory comes with a hidden cost.
Yeah, I mostly agree. I think Ayane Koji could be defeated. I think Koenji might be a little bit close to Ayane Koji's intelligence, maybe just a little bit. So I think of like Koenji, spoiler alert, Takuya Yagami, and you know, Saki and Nagi, all three of them like teamed up. I think they could outsmart Ayane Koji probably.
Distance. No matter how many
It's kind of difficult. I think the closest person to Ayane Koji, like kind of more so anime only, because again, I haven't read the light novels in like a while. But anime only, I think I would say Saki and Nagi is probably the closest person to Ayane Koji. You could argue it's Koenji, but Koenji doesn't have enough feats. That's the issue. But Saki and Nagi, when she was playing chess against Ayane Koji, I think he was like sweating a little bit, or he might have gotten a bit nervous.
people surround him, there's always something emotionally unreachable about him. A barrier, a separation between himself and everyone else.
But yeah, honestly, it's difficult because low-key, Ayane Koji kind of low-diffed Yagami. He low-diffed Ryuen. it's just, yeah, there aren't many people who can actually stand against Ayano Koji. The only people I can think of is Sake Yanagi and Koenji, and that's about it.
And you can see this throughout nearly every major relationship he forms, especially with Kei. Cause Kei genuinely falls in love with him, trusts him, depends on him emotionally, and while Ayano Koji protects her, helps her grow stronger, and even stays by her side. There's always ambiguity behind his actions, because part of him still approaches relationships analytically, as if he's trying to understand emotions rather than naturally experience them. Even Ayano Koji himself admits at times that he doesn't fully understand what normal human connection is supposed to feel like. The person who understands human psychology better than almost anyone else struggles to emotionally connect with people in a genuine way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna bring up Frieren really quickly, like really quickly. I don't know if you guys watch it, but this reminds me of like this green-haired assassin girl from Frieren. Her name is Ubel, and she's being shipped kind of like with this blonde-haired guy who has glasses and he has a bunch of clones. If you watch Frieren, you'll know what I'm talking about. But literally, the guy with glasses and blonde hair, he says to Ubel, you copy magic without actually understanding the process of it, without understanding like how it works, how it functions. You simply feel it out. So basically, it just kind of like Ubel, she basically just feels out magic and kind of is able to understand it like naturally. But the guy with glasses and blonde hair, he kind of like studies it and he actually comprehends and understands what his magic does on an analytical level. It's kind of like ego versus it a little bit. And basically, the reason I brought that whole Frieren analogy up is Ayano Koji, he understands emotions from this analytical, psychological point of view, but he's never experienced them on a primal id type of level. You know, he's just kind of thinking more so with his ego than his like nature.
And that's the true horror of the White Room. It doesn't just create intelligence, it created emotional conditioning so extreme that winning became more natural than vulnerability. And this is where Classroom of the Elite reveals its darkest idea about genius. The series suggests that intelligence without emotional connection eventually becomes self-destructive, because when someone spends their entire life treating people like variables, tools, and outcomes to control, they eventually lose the ability to experience relationship without calculation. Which means Ayano Koji's greatest tragedy is deeply ironic. He becomes exactly what the system wanted him to become. Perfect, efficient, untouchable, and elite. But in the process, he lost something fundamental. The ability to live like a normal human being. And that's why despite
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think it's intelligence though. I feel like it's the White Room. Because Sake Yanagi, she doesn't seem like kind of soulless in the way Ayano Koji is. Like, I still get what Doron's saying overall, but it's just like, even Koenji's really smart, but like, he just has this weird positive vibe about him. I don't know. I really think it's the White Room specifically that messed up Ayano Koji and not necessarily like his intelligence. Maybe even Koenji was kind of trained to be smart, but like, I'm assuming he just didn't go through like this emotional suppression type of weird White Room training. Like Koenji's training, he probably had this super rich dad who just got him a bunch of lessons or whatever, you know?
Constantly winning, Ayano Koji never truly feels free, because a system that made him powerful also made him emotionally alone. Now, in the beginning of this video, I said that most anime treat intelligence like a superpower, but Classroom of the Elite treats it like a disease. And after everything the series shows us, that idea becomes impossible to ignore. This school rewards manipulation over honesty, results over empathy, control over connection. The students who survive learn to suppress vulnerability, to calculate people instead of trusting them, to treat relationships like strategy instead of connection. And the smartest students are those who adapt the fastest. Ryuen rules through fear. Sake Yanagi isolates herself through superiority. Ichinose learns compassion can be exploited. And Ayano Koji becomes the ultimate result of it all. A genius capable of understanding.
My thing is, just because Ichinose learns compassion can be exploited, like, again, kind of reminds me of the Higuruma thing. Like, you don't always have to have this huge negative character development just because you find out the world is evil or some parts of the world is bad. Like, kind of reminds me of Obito, bro. Like, okay, I get it. Obito did go through a lot. Like, it makes sense why he got so angry, and especially considering how much he cared for Rin, you know, within the realm of Naruto. But, like, you don't always have to go through this, like, extreme flip, you know? Like, Obito didn't have to turn evil. Naruto didn't. Naruto could have chosen to be evil. He didn't do that. He still tried to keep what I like to call realistic optimism, you know?
Understanding everyone around him while struggling to genuinely connect with any of them at all. Because that's the real tragedy of Classroom of the Elite. The closer it's to
Like, even with Higuruma didn't have to turn evil either. Like, I get it. Yeah, it sucks, you know, corrupt judges, but nothing really happened to, like, Higuruma specifically that was extremely bad. I still kind of understand why he snapped, why he went off the deep end. But if we look at Higuruma specifically, nothing really happened to, like, him. Like, yes, it sucks that he wasn't able to, you know, save his client, and, you know, his client got sentenced to life due to the corrupt judges, you know, during that period within Jujutsu Kaisen. But, like, Higuruma himself, nothing happened, like, to him specifically. With Obito, yeah, I mean, he cared about Rin died. Like, there's more direct negative things that happened to Obito compared to, like, Higuruma, for example. Even compared to Ichinose, like, nothing bad has happened to, like, Ichinose specifically. Just throughout the entire Classroom of the Elite series, bro. Heck, even Sakura arguably had it worse, because there was that weird stalker guy who was, like, obsessed with her and literally tried to, like, force her to, you know, force her into weird stuff, right? When he caught her in an alley. But it's just like, if we're talking about direct negatives, nothing has happened to Ichinose either.
students get to becoming elite, the further they drift from their own humanity. And maybe that's what the series understands about genius that most anime don't. Intelligence without human connection eventually becomes isolation. Because Classroom of the Elite isn't about becoming elite, it's about what you lose, trying to become one.
Damn. Yeah, that's good. I want to read a few comments. That's good, though, honestly. Then there's Koenji. Bro, I literally said this, though, man. This is literally what I said. Then there's Koenji, who just doesn't care and instead seeks self-worth. I don't even know if Koenji seeks self-worth. Like, it seems like his self-worth is already so extremely high that he's not seeking it. He just already has it. But again, we don't know his backstory. We don't know. Maybe he is carrying some trauma. I don't know, bro. But yeah, this comment, bro, honestly peak. But yeah, great video, and I do agree with a lot of the points. Ultimately, I think the White Room specifically is kind of the overarching negative in terms of intelligence, because yeah, there's like Koenji, there's Saki and Nagi. Koenji specifically is the best argument I could make for, you know, a character still being happy. But Ayano Koji, yeah, he's cooked. Not gonna lie.